Do you ever feel bogged down and overwhelmed with advice?
We are living in a time where good tips, tricks and hacks have never been more abundant.
From Facebook to podcasts, mentors to 6-week courses, it seems like everywhere we look now, someone is telling us what to avoid or how to improve.
So where do you start?
We thought we would start with taking some advice, not giving out more.
We're going to road test just a few of the world's ideas and suggestions, seeing how easy they are to put into practice, and we'll meet a few experts along the way.
This is Advice Takers and Habit Makers.
Hello, it's Larissa
And Sarah.
and you are either listening on our podcast or watching us on YouTube, and our podcast is...
Advice Takers and Habit Makers.
That's a bit of a tongueful sometimes, isn't it? But tell us a little bit about this whole concept, Sarah, because you are basically the genius behind it. There's been a lot of ideas thrown around between us, but then we've come to the idea. So tell us what it is that we're going to be doing.
Well, Larissa and I both listen to a lot of podcasts, and we watch a lot of videos, and we absorb plenty of audio books, and we're very avid learners. But I think we both got to a point where we realised that our world is saturated with advice, and there's only so much that you can absorb and actually put into practice. So when we thought about creating a podcast ourselves, we decided that perhaps taking some of that advice and road testing it was the best approach instead of producing more of our own.
Because there's lots of advice out there. Some's good, some's bad. So we're going to have a bit of a play with it, and hopefully you'll come on the journey with us, and maybe you might even find something that appeals to you that you might want to road test. And that's the idea. We want to encourage our listeners to be part of the journey as well. And we should mention that we are part of Women with Altitude as well.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a plug for our networking group, a group of amazing women. And you'll find a bit more about them throughout the podcast and in the podcast show notes. But how about we start chatting a little bit about who we are, because this is all new, so we want to introduce ourselves. So Sarah, tell us, this is in the nutshell question.
Yes.
Tell us who you are, your background, where'd you come from, that kind of thing.
Okay. I live in the Blue Mountains. I have a partner and 2 boys aged 3 and 5. I grew up in Tassie and I moved to Sydney when I was 24. I'm a photographer, but I suppose I wouldn't call myself a conventional photographer. I incorporate a lot of writing and therapeutic tools and a lot of mindset stuff in my photography as well. So when I work with clients, I really want them to go on a journey and come out the other end a changed person with new ideas about how they look and who they are.
And you're about to start some art therapy as well.
Yes, I'm about to go back to uni full-time next semester and study creative arts and health and arts therapy, which is very exciting.
I look forward to hearing how you go with that, because I went back as a mature age student and did a uni degree, and it was hard work. So yeah, we'll see how you go. But tell us so you've sort of touched on your passion.
Yes.
What would your passion and purpose, let's put it in a bit of a nutshell here, what would that be?
Okay. If I can talk about the times where you just feel completely uplifted and on top of the world and incredible, they're definitely the times where I work with clients who are really honest about their own insecurities, or perhaps things that have happened in their past that have changed how they see themselves and their relationship with their body. So, a lot of us have had children or surgery or, weight gain and weight loss, which is not only a cosmetic or an aesthetic thing, it definitely shapes who you are, if I can use the word shape. And I think taking photos is a big part of that self-reckoning process, to be able to put in a journal how you're feeling about yourself and write about your life up till now, then have photos done and really reflect on what they symbolize, how you see yourself in those images. So when I'm working with a client who can really step through that journey and they're really open and receptive to that process, that's what I absolutely love. That's my whole reason for getting up and doing what I do.
That's what makes you tick.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. And this is just off on a tangent, but I'm guessing that you've seen people and you've taken their photos at the beginning and then you've taken them a year or two later and you've seen a difference in the way that they're thinking about themselves and photography and the color and light and everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I do love that. I do have people that, like that one there, who are fortunate enough to always make time and space for me when I want to take their picture. And and it's just the most wonderful thing to build up a library of who that person is and to capture different moments in their life. Sure.
Yeah, it's exciting and you do it so well. So
Thank you.
Okay, so let's ask you, what are your strengths, and on the flip side, what are your weaknesses?
Well, I think this is really important looking at the podcast that we are making now, because I think it's important to reflect on what our listeners will believe or have an understanding that we'll be able to do well at, and maybe the things that we won't do well at or that will be more challenging for us. So I think my strengths are, as I touched on earlier, I think I'm an avid learner and I'm committed to always challenging myself, and indirectly challenging others as well. And I'm a bit of a sponge for adventure and experience and working out where there's meaning, and always sort of on that journey of revelation and new purpose and finding new meaning and those sort of things. Weakness wise, I think there's always light and shade to having that much energy. So I do get very easily excited about new things. I get very easily distracted. I tend to fall in love with ideas and not really necessarily always see them through. An idea needs to be sort of a snap idea that I can put into practice straight away and see the results, and a slower burn for me is definitely more challenging. And I think I struggle with compliments as well. I know that's something that a lot of people aren't great at, but I do, possibly when people talk about me, which we're both in a position where people do talk about us, I do want to go and hide under a chair sometimes. So I'm sure I have plenty more weaknesses. I'm really untidy, I'm hopeless, my car's a mess and my home's a mess as well. But for the purpose of this podcast, I think those are the main ones.
Awesome. Okay, so last one. What areas would you like to grow in?
I think it's probably a reflection of what I just said. I'd like to have more discipline in my life. I'd like to have more habits that I can see long-term results from. So I think that's probably one of the motivating reasons why I suggested to Larissa that we make this a theme in our podcast, is just to see, well, if I am putting things in place and I am intentionally committing to things, what difference does that make in my life? What benefits can I see there?
Awesome. And there's a good kind of I think that's a good kind of energy between us, because we've been talking about doing a podcast. I don't know if you remember, but it's probably nearly a year, probably about June, July last year. And the ideas have totally evolved since then, which is a good thing, because it's gotten to where we think it's going to be quite exciting for everyone. So this whole podcast has been on its own kind of journey.
Yes.
So
yes. Now I would like to interview you. So tell us about you in a nutshell.
Well, my daughter's sitting in the background, so I can't say anything too bad. No, I am a mum of 4, live out in the western suburbs of Sydney. Love it out here. Our house is completely too small for us, but that's okay. So yeah, 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy, and an amazing husband who is in the radio industry and is like the rock of our family. I am passionate about working with other women in many different ways, but I'm particularly passionate about the health and wellness kind of area of things. Mainly have been through massage, so I'm trained in natural therapy, so massage, raindrop massage, which is an essential oil massage, and it's absolutely amazing. Balancing of energy, yes, just using essential oils, low tox, pretty much anything I can get my hands on and have a play with and just kind of lights me up, I'll kind of go through and do. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you talked about your passion and purpose a bit there. Can you tell us a bit more about those moments that really light you up and make you feel on top of the world?
So I really am like you in the sense that, and I think we discovered this a couple of weeks ago, we both want to take people on a journey rather than just saying, okay, I do this and that's all I do, and I'm going to give you 1 massage session and you're all fixed and healed and, you know, be gone, everything's gone and everything's perfect.
Yeah.
But I totally believe that healing is not just that sort of one-sided thing that fixes everything, but I do believe it's a journey that we go on. So when it comes to our whole health, and that's what my business is all about, so it's holistic wellness hub, as in whole. So I don't think, you know, we're never going to be completely whole, because then we'd be absolutely perfect and there'd be no fun in that. But I do believe in healing as being many sort of sided, so healing of the spirit, mind, body, emotions, everything like that. So when I see someone who is just realizing, like me, I went on this journey maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it's this massive process that I went on and layers of building upon to where I am today, which I have so much further to go. But when I see someone and they're just lit up with, okay, this part has worked, okay, what can I do now to improve my health, to improve my mindset, to improve my emotions, you know, the whole part of me, that is what really I am passionate about. And I see that as a big purpose as to what I do. So yeah, that's why I just cling to different things and do so much, because everything kind of fits in that whole big purpose.
So strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, so I am like you. Maybe I'll do weaknesses first.
Okay.
I'm really good, and I'm getting better at it, but I'm really good at telling people my weaknesses, not so good at telling people my strengths, but I'm getting better at it. So weaknesses, I reckon, would be things like I'm highly distracted, as are you. So I like the sort of flashy lights and shiny objects. Distracted in that sense, and distracted in getting things done, so needing to establish really good clear-cut habits and then follow them through, so not so good at that all the time. I'm sure that there's, of course they're not all coming to my mind right now, but I know that there's a lot more weaknesses I have, but I would say that's probably the biggest one. Just, you know, being able to follow through ideas and keep them going. I'm fairly consistent, but I need to be on that path of consistency with a lot of things that I do, but I do try and do too much at the same time. So that's probably why I am fairly distracted and can get quite overwhelmed with things as well.
Okay. And did you talk about strengths?
I didn't talk about my strengths. How
Come
funny
on.
is that? Okay, I love, and I think it is one of my strengths, connecting with people. So particularly women, feel like I can relate to them. You know, there's a lot of different facets of my life that I work on. I'm a mother of special needs child, so we have a group called CAPS, which is Kick-Ass Parents of Kids with Special Needs, so I can relate a lot to them. I also have my business, so there's that kind of facet and side of me. So I relate to a lot of women there. I just like connecting people and bringing them together and collaborating and working with different people and finding out about them and what makes them tick. And yeah, and I love to, like you, dive in and be a deep thinker. And I think I'm a deep thinker anyway. Maybe I'm not compared to other people, but I feel that that's something I really enjoy. Just really, sometimes I am an overthinker, which should go into the weaknesses, not the strengths. Sometimes I do overthink things, but a lot of times the overthinking leads to really amazing kind of ideas that come to fruition as well.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I do catch myself overthinking at times, but then I think there's probably a purpose for this overthinking, even if it means that I acknowledge that I'm in a rut about something and the thinking's going nowhere. It's good to see that for what it is, and know that the clarity will come and the overthinking will ease up, but the overthinking hasn't been wasted necessarily either.
Yeah, well, I know that I was just sitting on something the other day and possibly overthinking it and, how's it going to work and everything. And I stepped back and thought, okay, so there's something not quite going right here and the energy didn't feel right. And so I talked to a friend of mine and she actually pointed me in the right direction with my thinking, and I realized actually I am procrastinating on it for a purpose. The energy is not right, and she actually led me to what the issue was. So sometimes, when we do sit on things and we overthink, it is because we're not sitting in the right space.
I agree.
Yeah, or energy on that thing. So,
all right. So where do you wish to grow?
I think the whole concept of getting things done, that is a really good space for me to take my next step and forming some of those really good, not just thinking habits, but just life habits and health habits and everything habits.
Yes. Well, I think what you've discussed and what I've shared as well shows that we're in a pretty similar space. Mindset wise and life wise, we both get attracted to shiny things. Definitely, we both have a lot of energy for people, and we both invest a lot in understanding women, especially. But we don't always put what we're learning and what we're absorbing into practice, and making sure that our lives are being enriched in the same ways. So that's what we're here to do.
Yes, exactly. Well, so this week has mainly been about getting to know us, but we want to bring up a topic with you all, something to think and ponder a little bit about, but we're going to give you a bit of information on it. I'm really building it for you here. But it is the whole concept of conscious language or apologetic language, and we've been thinking about that a fair bit. I just want to quickly share a story that I have about it. Last year I was doing some business training and I was listening to the lady who was doing the training, and she was just talking generally, and she said you can ask questions. So I put my question in and I said, I'm struggling with my business. I'm struggling to get people to be leaders. And she read my question and she said, stop right there. The fact that you have just said that you are struggling to do it, you've basically, this is in a nutshell, you've basically spoken that into your position, into what is coming to fruition, what is happening in your life. You've spoken that reality over it. And I stopped and I thought, oh my goodness, yes, I have. For 1.5 years, 2 years, I've been saying to myself, I'm struggling with this. And that has actually created the struggles over that kind of whole topic. So I guess that's kind of what we're talking about, that kind of using language that is either speaking life over, what we want to achieve, or it's creating a reality for us. So we've both had a bit of a think about this, and this is what we're chatting about this week, and then we're going to road test a little bit next week and fill you in a bit more about it. So
Yes.
in your mind, what is this whole conscious language or apologetic language? How do you see it? Because you've been listening to a few podcasts on it as well.
I have, of course. Look, I think apologetic language is part of conscious language, because I think that we hide behind our language and we don't necessarily always think about our words and choose our words deliberately. And there are certainly as women, I think we hide behind language too much, and we use phrases that mean that we're sitting in our comfort zone because we don't want to necessarily declare exactly how we're feeling, or what we choose, or what we want, or what we need in that moment. And we don't want to be, and I think that's where it lends itself to apologetic language, because we don't necessarily always want to be a burden or impose on people or make them uncomfortable with how we're feeling. So to me, conscious language is I heard a really great quote. It's the product of an unconfused and uncluttered mind.
Like that.
Yeah. So, and this is, I'm not an expert, and I don't even think I'm using uncluttered, unconfused language in this recording. But this is going to be a challenge that I think we can both benefit from, speaking our feelings in the present, not saying last week I felt this, or last week this happened to me, saying this is how I feel now, and this is what I need now, this is what I want now. And I'll give you an example. You had one example, so I'll share one as well. A friend of mine is moving away, so relocating elsewhere. And I was talking to another friend of mine last night, and I did a big emotional dump about how I was feeling about this friend moving away. And I said, I feel sad because I'll never, I won't get to see her, and I feel sad because she'll have another life, and I feel sad that I can't be there for her, and I feel sad, blah, blah, blah. And I kept trying to back up why I was feeling sad. And then I just stopped and had a moment of clarity, and I said, I feel sad. That's it. Why do I have to keep explaining why I feel sad? I feel sad. And I just felt like this burden just lifted, this weight lifted off me, and I thought, I can just say how I feel. I don't need to keep explaining or justifying why that is. I feel sad.
I guess the bit that I picked up on what you were saying, here's me being all analytical.
Yeah.
But when you said, I'm never going to see her again, part of that is, we say these things, but who knows what's going to be in the future. And are you, when you say something like that, speaking life or death as it may be over it? Because we don't know the future, but oftentimes we are so caught up in the what ifs, and rather than sitting in the here and now. And you came to that realization to say, I am sad, which is, the feeling that you had, but who knows what the result of that might be in the future. And there's another one that often people will say, or women will say, I am just a mum. And when we use that word just, it just takes, I am a mum. I declare that over me, but I am just. It really diminishes the whole, as a mum, you go through so much. You do so much. You even just having a baby, you go through so much. But when we say just, it changes the whole focus and really demeans. And I think women do that a lot, because you don't hear it so much with men, but women particularly talking ourselves down. As a culture, we do that as well.
Yes.
There's the whole tall poppy thing. And yes, we do cut people down, but how often are we more likely to cut ourselves down than to cut someone else down?
Yes. I think conscious language is tied intrinsically to our sense of who we are and our own value as well. So if you're saying I'm just a mum, then it's one thing to edit that language, but it's also, well, why did you choose that language in the first place? And how are you feeling about your role in the world and your value and your purpose, and all those bigger questions which should speak to the words that you're using rather than just editing the language itself, perhaps.
There's that word should as well. And the other one is try. So that's a big one. When we say, we were having a bit of a chat about this, I am going to try to be there. I just cringe when anyone says try, and I'm just like, yeah, you're not. Like, when we look into the word try and the whole purpose behind it and meaning, we know that it's not likely to happen. So that's another one for us to think about. So I guess for next week, we're going to be looking at this a bit more.
Yes.
Thinking about maybe we are encouraging you to have a think about the language that you're using. What words are you using that maybe you can change because they are perhaps creating some kind of reality that you don't want to see in your life? Maybe it is, it's from our programming or whatever, but what can you actually start to flip on its head? And we're not going to use the word try because no one's trying here, unless you actually are trying.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's what we were discussing before we recorded this, is that try, as you say, has become synonymous with no, or giving yourself a means to fail or to default on what you've told somebody that you will do. But if you are genuinely going to try, then I think there are ways that you can express that perhaps without using that word. But there's no harm in saying, there's no harm in wanting to try something new. It's just the words that you're using and the way that you're making yourself feel, I suppose, in making that promise to somebody. So if they ask you to do something that genuinely will be a bit of a trial and error, then not saying, I will try to do that for you, but I will.
I will do it.
I will, yes, or I
Whether
will
you
give it.
succeed or don't succeed, it doesn't matter. It's that you're actually doing it.
And I will commit some time, and I will look into this for you, and I will come back to you with my findings or what I've managed to put together for you. And they're all elements of trying, but just, I guess, as you said, try is a bit of a trigger word, and that if you say to somebody, I will try, then you're giving yourself an out before you started.
Here's something that maybe we can, I'll throw the last word to you in a second, but maybe something that we can just leave our listeners or viewers with. Now, you may not be into biblical proverbs or whatever, but this is actually from one of the books that I've read. It's actually called Conscious Language. It is by someone called Robert Stevenson. I think I got that right. We'll pop the details in the show notes anyway, and we'll pop in any affiliate links that we have. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yes. I think I get about 5 cents or less from Amazon as being an affiliate. But anyway, I'll pop the details of it. So his book is Conscious Language, and the verse that he quotes from the Bible is life and death are in the power of the tongue, and it's Proverbs 18 verse 21. And whether you're into reading the Bible or not, it's quite true, because we have, by the words that we speak, we have a lot of power in what we are creating in our lives, what we want to see come about through our breath and inspiration. If we don't want to see something come about, basically say bad things over it and it probably won't come about. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, but I'll leave you with the last word, Sarah.
Well, I think until we record a new episode, we will both be wanting, as I said, to declutter our language. I think there was another thing I heard, which is a tiring mind spoken, a confused mind spoken tires both the speaker and the listener. So I know that we, in the conversations that we have, we definitely tend to ramble, and we listen to people who ramble as well and who aren't confident about the requests they're making of us or the needs that they're expressing. So I think it's important to be mindful of the fact that when you are expressing what you want, or you're making a request, or you're collaborating with somebody, that speaking in a confused way tires your mind and it tires theirs as well. You know, it's really draining their energy. So I think that's something to keep in mind for the coming weeks when we are trying to use that more conscious language and achieve greater clarity in what we express to ourselves and to others.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. See ya.